and this limiting belief that is jack of all trades, master of none. Is that true? Well, no, I don't think so, and I'm going to elaborate on that. By the way, my name is Mark with Noble Digital Empire, serial entrepreneur, several businesses, and hope you like the view. I'm not talking about this mug. I'm talking about all that in the background. So we are on the Intercoastal Waterway in New Smyrna Beach, another lovely day in Florida. So let's go back to the subject. Jack of all trades, master of none. People kind of ask us, because we've gone from one business model and we've expanded the level of services on that. And people say, well, are you doing too much? Or you can't, or maybe assume that I can't possibly be good at those. Well, that is actually pretty ridiculous. I can't tell you how many attorneys I know that, they started off as a notary public, right? And then they became a paralegal. And then from paralegal, they went on to law school. We became an attorney. And so those attorneys actually have a role in general practice where they're kind of practicing in all different kinds. So are they just a failure at all that, or have they just developed skills and expanded on them? Well, that's exactly what happened. See, here's what happens with most people, and this is really sad, unfortunately. If you do believe that you can't acquire new skills, you're just really extremely limiting your life in general. So let me give you an illustration, and this comes from Alex Hormozi. I've kind of always thought this, but he said it, and I don't think I could say it any better than he did. But that is that most people live their life, they live the same life of about 6 months over and over again. So they only really live 6 months and then they just keep repeating it. And it's a very profound concept, that people basically don't ever do anything new and don't ever try anything new. And that's more or less intentional. You're just choosing to keep repeating, doing the same thing over again, rather than actually trying to expand your skills and expand your knowledge base. So personally, I can tell you, my background is not in legal services. It's not as an entrepreneur at all. I learned to become an entrepreneur. I actually was in nursing, and before nursing, I was an EMT. So I started EMT, became a paramedic, and others expanded on those skills, then became a nurse, and then very quickly became a critical care nurse. Now, I can tell you that it took me about 2 years to get really, really good and proficient at critical care. So for the next 10 years of doing that, I wasn't really doing anything new in critical care. I was doing the same job over and over again. So absolutely the case. So let me put it to you another way. The same way that you learn to do anything is how you learn to do everything, okay? There was a day and a time where tying your shoes was a challenge for you. There's probably some grown adults who tying their shoes is still a challenge for them, but that's neither here nor there. So, but my point is you learned to tie your shoes, and then you went and you learned to do another thing. Eventually you went to grade school and learned mathematics, and you learn how to read, and you can just keep piling those skills on so long as you choose. Now, here's the caveat. In business, you definitely should maximize a skill first before moving to another one, being certain that you're adequately proficient at least 80% as good as anybody, and then move on. I would also say that when we're talking about marketing a service, you should make sure that you reach what I would call market saturation before going in and promoting your next service. Otherwise, you may find that you run yourself thin. So trying to do too many things at once. So it is a good idea when you have one particular service you offer and you're adding another one to go ahead and really drive that one home. Make sure that you really, really are marketing that one well, and you basically tapped out that revenue source. Then learn that new skill, explore that new skill, market that new skill. So now you've created that whole new revenue stream. So that is the way I would approach that. I would approach it, though, with diligence, and I wouldn't approach it with any limiting belief like you somehow have a limit on what you're able to do. That's absolute nonsense. Now, what is unfair is that some people do, in fact, learn things much quicker than others. So, but that's just that, it's maybe a gift, but I will tell you this, though, that when you learn new skills, it is like a muscle. It's like use it or lose it. So the more you use that ability to acquire new skills, the better it gets. And then the next thing you go to learn to do, and the next thing you go to learn to do, you get quicker and easier at learning new things because you are using that muscle of developing new skills. So that's it for today. Food for thought. I hope you found that useful. Go ahead and drop a comment, what you thought about the video, like, subscribe, and then we will see you on the next one.